If you feel like external stimuli such as social media, video games, and the other multitude of temptations that make up our modern digital world have hijacked your brain, well, the idea of a dopamine detox, which attempts to reset everything, might be tempting, but it's unlikely to work. Yet, I have some ideas for other things that you can try. Hello everybody, my name is Tyler Lloyd and this is my YouTube channel where I document my personal development journey and all that I learned along the way. If you're interested in personal development, consider hitting subscribe down below. And if you want to swap bad digital habits for good digital habits, consider hitting that thumbs up button because that is what we're going to be talking about today. Dopamine. Dopamine is a neurological transmitter that plays a crucial role in many neurological processes, including motivation, learning and memory, punishment and aversion, and even voluntary movement. It is made in the body, and you need it to survive. In 1954, James Olds and Peter Milner conducted an experiment where they inserted electrodes into the brains of rats in order to disrupt their dopamine receptors. They literally killed their urge to live, because without dopamine, they lost the desire to eat, to drink, and within days, they died of thirst. Dopamine drives desire, and desire ensures that we stay alive. The desire to eat, drink, socialize, to be accepted, to reproduce. Those are the things that kept our ancestors alive and thriving, and our brain rewards us for seeking out and undertaking those activities. That's why dopamine is so important. Problems, however, start to arise when the modern world starts to manipulate our ancient brain. That dopamine-driven feedback loop that kept our ancestors alive, well, it's been with us since we became us, Homo sapiens, nearly 200,000 years ago. But the thing is, life is a whole lot different now, and companies are actively manipulating our dopamine triggers in order to keep us using their services and making them money. Why are social media, video games, streaming services, porn, junk food, and all the other things that people find themselves wanting to indulge in so addicting? Because companies have designed them that way, to purposefully flip our dopamine switch and light up our brains like a Christmas tree. Have you ever found yourself checking social media, but then realizing that you don't remember why you got on social media, what you were intending to do, or even remember picking up your phone? I call this social media blackout. If this has ever happened to you, it's because the habit of checking your phone, which is driven by that dopamine feedback loop, has been repeated so many times that the grooves of that habit are worn so deep that they become automatic. They happen without you even thinking, and that's when the problems start to arise. But a dopamine detox won't fix it, but I wish it would. For those unaware, a dopamine detox might go something like this. For 24 to 72 hours, you abstain from using social media, watching television, playing video games, listening to music, podcast, really consuming any sort of digital media. There is no porn, there is no junk food, there is no caffeine. Potentially, there is no food. You're actually fasting at the same time. And maybe even you take it as far to not talk to anyone. The dopamine fast, created by Dr. Cameron Sepa, is based on the idea that by sitting in boredom and feeling lonely, we can start to take pleasure again in the simple task and be more mindful of what we do. And this isn't a new idea. I'm all for mindfulness and meditation retreats, but with those, usually there is more guidance as you're practicing them, and they're part of a larger lifelong practice, not just a 24-hour reboot on our system. Before making this video, I actually thought about doing a dopamine detox for 24 hours, cutting myself off from external stimuli other than filming myself so I could document it. But the more I thought about it, I realized that it wouldn't really add value to you guys, and all it would result in is me being bored out of my friggin' mind for 24 hours. Now, how can I say this? Well, one, partly due to my study of habit change and psychology, and two, because I've essentially done dopamine detoxes in the past. In 2009, I hiked Hinchinbrook Island, a remote island off the coast of Queensland, and for 3 days, I was alone, hiking in the rainforest without a cell phone, an iPod. I even forgot to bring a book, stupidly didn't bring any coffee. I had some nuts, some dried wheat bix, and water. That's it. I walked for 3 days straight, and I thought. But as soon as I got back to the mainland, I quickly resumed my social media habits like it never happened. Then, from 2012 to 2014, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Burkina Faso. I had no internet, barely had any cell service. I had solar panels on my roof where I could charge a laptop, but only enough to watch maybe 2 movies a week. And during that time, I ate a very austere diet. Multiple times, I actually did a water fast for several days, where I did nothing but journal and meditate. But after I was done with my 2 years of Peace Corps service and returned back to the US, I became just as maladapted as everyone else with my social media and digital habits. And yes, I know some of you are going to say that those 2 experiences do not constitute a dopamine detox. Well, let me know down in a comment below. Abstaining from potentially addictive modern conveniences and pleasures for a few days won't reset your brain. Now, it will make you acutely aware of how much you've grown to depend on those things, which in itself can be a very good thing. But it's not going to fix the problem, and after you're done with your dopamine detox, you're probably going to pick up right where you left off, because you haven't taken steps to break those bad habits and replace them with good habits. Did you know that 40 to 60% of people who overcome drug addiction end up relapsing? People who seek professional help, who go into rehab, end up becoming addicted again. Why? This is because they go back to their old ways, back to a community where drugs are readily available, or surrounding themselves with people who also use drugs, or into an environment that first caused them to use drugs in the first place. And these addictive drugs, just like those modern digital conveniences, play on the same dopamine receptors. But not all people relapse. During the Vietnam War, many US soldiers became addicted to heroin, and heroin is thought to be one of the most addictive drugs. Heroin was readily available and cheap, other soldiers were using it, and they used it to cope with literally being at war in the jungles of Vietnam. But when they returned home, many of them quit using heroin without rehab or any treatment whatsoever. Why? Because heroin wasn't readily available. They weren't surrounded by people who were using heroin, and their environment changed. They were no longer at war. And that's the thing. If you want to break an addiction, taking a short pause from it isn't going to fix anything. In a world that's always searching for a quick fix or a productivity hack, I know that's going to disappoint a lot of people. But those people probably stopped watching this video 2 minutes ago and started watching something else. For those of you still with me, thank you, and maybe consider hitting my dopamine trigger by hitting that like button down below. But at the beginning of this video, I promised to give you something that you could actually use instead of a dopamine detox. Well, first off, just try to figure out what bad habit are you trying to break. Now that we know what we're trying to correct, we can start to apply the inverse of the laws of habit formation, as described in the book Atomic Habits. The first thing is to make it invisible. Do this by reducing your exposure to the bad habit and removing the cues of your bad habits from your environment. It's hard to play video games when they aren't there. Then make it unattractive. Reframe how you think about the habit. What does the habit say about you, and is that congruent with who you want to be? Make it difficult. Delete the apps, lock your phone away in a timer cookie jar, link down below. Maybe put the console in the closet, or after you're done watching television, unplug the television and take out the batteries from the remote. You want to increase the amount of friction in between you and the bad habit. And lastly, make it unsatisfying. Maybe have an accountability partner in all of this, because we really don't like letting people down, and even more than that, we really don't like failing in front of other people. And if you really want to double down, put some money on the line. At the same time you're breaking those bad habits, start creating new ones to fill the void, ones that serve you and don't hijack your brain and take control of your life. I'm sorry that what I just described is a whole lot more ambiguous and difficult than a 24-hour dopamine detox. But if real improvement was that easy, we'd all be millionaires with six packs. If you want more resources on this topic, I have two book recommendations. The first one being Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And what is digital minimalism? Well, I'll read it. It's a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a small number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support things you value and then happily miss out on everything else. And in his book, he does suggest kind of a quasi-dopamine detox, but rather than doing it for a few days, he actually suggests a month or longer. And then after you're done, you really need to reframe how you think about technology and use it, but use it in a way that better serves you. And the second book I recommend is Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book is the quintessential book for understanding habit formation, for building good habits, and breaking bad ones. I would definitely recommend it. And I'm probably going to do book reviews on these two books, and I haven't done them yet, but when I eventually do them, I will link them down below. And that's it. That's all I have today. I'm right there with you, trying to figure out how I can lessen my dependence and potential addiction to those digital triggers. And as I'm figuring it out, I'm sharing it with you guys. So if you want to be there for the next video where I talk more about this topic and how I'm trying to reframe my use of digital technology, make sure you subscribe down below. And if you have any thoughts on this video, I would love to hear them in a comment. But until next time, my name is Tyler Lloyd, and this is my YouTube channel where I document my personal development journey and all that I learned along the way. See you guys later.